And welcome to today's PUBG analysis. If I'm going through this a little quickly, it is because we just did the intro once already and I messed it up, so now we started over. And here we go. Week 4 is at hand. It's the tournament is only getting more and more crazy with the prize pool steadily increasing and going upward, and this week has been pretty insane as well. I had the pleasure of casting the tournament or the finals with Paper Thin. And it was a joy for us, at least. It was crazy all the way through and just non-stop action. And yeah, we're going to hop straight into it. Straight into day number 1. Game number 1. Everything is working now. I am logged in. I got all the everythings working the way that we wanted to. And now let's see. Anything out of the ordinary here with phase number 1? No, not really. Everyone landing in the usual areas that we've seen them go to before. The only difference is that we have Liquid over towards Monte Nuevo, but that's of course because Sonics, they're down here, DA taking the what's next to it, Afrika Freaks, they've taken control up towards the north, and because FaZe Clan isn't here, Liquid, they might as well claim something that they know is going to be free. So Monte grabbed by Team Liquid, and other than that, it's a pretty straightforward start to the game. Now the only thing, when we look at this circle going all the way up to towards northeast, the only thing really that springs to mind is that we have this mountain down here and we have a mountain up here. These two are going to some extent force a bit of a funnel in towards the circle. So if you look at the path coming in here, like you're forcing people to go through here, but because it's phase 1, because there's still plenty of space, even this area here is over a kilometer in distance. So there's still plenty of space for teams to move into the circle, and it should be pretty straightforward. Even though the vast majority of teams are coming from the southwest into this, there's still opportunities to wrap around one side. You can go all the way over towards the north, and you can go your separate ways once you make your way in here. So pretty straightforward. Circle 1 shift, even though we are hard shifting up towards the edge. Now the only thing is, of course, for those of you guys who don't know, you cannot, if you look at this up here, this stretch that we have here, everything on the east side of these mountains, you can draw it up perfectly. Everything towards the east is unplayable terrain. And when we say unplayable terrain, normally we just mean that the circles can't go there, but you physically cannot get up on this plateau either. There is a, even if you try and parachute there, I've done that before. I've tested it. So you don't have to. Even if you jump out of the plane really early, let's say the plane path is up here somewhere. You jump out of the plane really early and try and fly back this direction. Even though you're way up in the air, your parachute is just going to cut out. No matter how high up, like once you reach this point, the parachute is just going to cut off and you're going to fall down and die. So not only is it unplayable terrain in terms of the circles not going there after phase 4, just like the water, but you actually cannot go there. So you cannot rotate around this. You cannot go up there whatsoever. That big plateau. So there is a decent chunk of the circle that is shifted out. You can see. I mean, that is going to be inaccessible, I guess you can say, up here towards that east side. But other than that, there's plenty of space for teams to go to. We have El Zaha. Of course, again, teams don't want to really sit in the cities too early, but still, plenty of space for teams to wrap into this circle and find somewhere to play. Infantry, they're going to rotate out early, going to make their way up. Ends doing the same thing. They're going to go towards the city, but wrap around. Makes good sense. And then we reach the fun point, because teams want to try and see if they can find a spot to play around in the center early on. At least, I mean, some of the earlier rotating teams will. And if we look at the center of this circle, let's take the grid up for a second. If we look at the center of this circle, that the very center is going to be around here somewhere. You have a compound, sure, but other than that, it's very, very open. It's like this whole stretch of land here is incredibly open. And if there's a team in this compound, or if there's a team on any of these hillsides for that matter, you can't really utilize the open middle at all. At least not all that well. So trying to claim something in center, where normally had the circle center down, let's say around the compounds down here, you could have 3, 4, maybe 5 teams playing, not on the center dot obviously, but in towards the middle of the map here. Teams are going to be spread out a little bit more, just because the very middle of the map is that big open field. So there isn't all that much you can try and take control of. Ends, they rev up to the east, sit out, they hug the wall, allow for infantry to rev through. 9 comes in. Out towards the west, we see teams rotating up and over. A lot of teams kind of running into one another. And that's, again, the thing, as I was saying, we all know, if we go back a little, we all know that with the circle popping, everyone knows that the vast majority of teams are going to be coming from the southwest, going up in this direction. And the fastest approach, or fastest, the most direct angle to get to the circle is up this way. And I'll change the color a little bit. Up in that direction, right? So teams go, great, okay, so if we're not rotating early, if we rotate super fast, we can go up here before anyone else does, no biggie, we can just keep on going through. But if we're a little later, if we're further down towards the southwest, if you're Tianba, if you're Genji, some of these teams out here, you go, okay, even if we did want to go over this way, if you're Genji, we know for a fact that we're going to be driving past teams, we're going to be driving through a city. That's just not convenient for us. Let's try and wrap over the north instead, and then come in from here, or maybe even go even further around, go all the way over the Oasis up towards the north. They opt to do that, and other teams are doing the same thing, because Liquid, of course, when they jumped out of the plane, heading over towards Montenuevo, they saw that there were people landing here, so they go, okay, maybe we don't want to try and force fights in between all of this. So some of these teams, they opt to go over the north. Tianba, down from the south side, they're doing the exact same thing, and now, because Genji rotated out as early as they did, still getting looted up in the city, spreading out, waiting for each other to get going, because Genji is never in a hurry. Like, they will sit here and wait, just because they want to play on the edge of the circle. They go, we could have been in here by now. I mean, they could have been inside the circle earlier, but they say, we're not in a hurry. We want to be one of the last teams to get inside the circle. And then we'll take it from there. We want to know, we want to only have to worry about, let's say, 180 degrees. Like, we only want to worry about what's in front of us. We do not want to have to think about a team that's further into the blue than us. That's why they opt to sit here. They sit around, they wait for a little while longer. Now teams come through the middle, of course. Unfortunate Tiamba, they get seen, they get shot at, and Liquid, they get a little lucky hearing this commotion, so they go, great, okay, there's still a team inside La Copraria. We have a chance now to wrap around. Let's do that instead. So they opt to take the road on the south side, they go around that, and then they avoid all the commotion up here. So a little bit of a tangle up towards that north side. South was pretty free, west was pretty free, but the north, a little bit of a tangle. Now the circle goes up here, and this is where things get a little bit tricky, because as I said before, center circle, or the center of the circle being tricky terrain to work around, that's going to make things hard. And now it's going to be even worse, because not only is the center hard to play, but at least before we had a compound down here, 1 or 2 compounds that you could play. Here there really isn't anything. You have a few shacks down here, and there's 1 building. No, wait, there's 2 houses, and the rest are small shacks. Everything else is an open field. Like this open field, again, you cannot really utilize it a whole lot as long as these hills are in. As long as Navi's position up here, and as long as Freak of Freaks can sit on the south side and get eyes on this from above, you just cannot sit out there. You can't sit out in the open field expecting to be safe behind a vehicle. That's something you can do in phase 6, phase 7, phase 8. In the end game, when the map is so small that everyone is kind of on the same altitude, right? Same height, or same level of plane. So so for now, the very center of the circle can't really use it a whole lot. So all these teams that want to sit center, they can't really do that. What you can do, though, is that you have Cruz del Valle and you have Tierra Blanca, 2 cities. Again, we don't like to go to cities, but if you have to, if you're coming in super late, that's an option. Same elevation. Thank you, Dagi. That's the word I was looking for. But other than that, a lot of these areas are incredibly open, and we have to keep in mind, when you're in these open areas with very scarce cover, or with very little cover, your vehicle, to some extent, becomes your best friend. Not only, of course, because you want to be able to drive around and not have to run in the open, but also because when you're not in the car, but you're around the car, that is going to be your cover. Like in an open field where you can't get anything, at least having a bang bus that you can sit behind, or a minivan, whatever you want to call it, that's going to give you something in a situation where you don't really have anything else. And then the thing is, if you are already in phase 2, if you're already this early, forced to use your vehicle for cover, there's a good chance you're using that car for cover because you are getting shot at, because you need that cover, right? So if your tires start getting popped, if your vehicle starts taking damage, if things start going wrong this early on in the game, imagine having to play the rest of the game like if a circle shifts away from you and you're forced to play on foot already from phase 2 or phase 3 in an area that's this open. You're doomed. You're completely doomed. And that's what some of these teams would have to go through in this game. We see Multi-Circle Gaming. They see the city. They wrap around the north side. I like that play. They say, we don't want to sit down here. Let's wrap around, and then we'll take control up towards the north. Because already now, teams are starting to think about the unplayable mountains and stuff like that in the circles to come as well. So everyone spreading out. But as you can see, the center still incredibly open. Can't really use it for anything with those hillsides still in. So the very dot, the very middle of the map, not a whole lot you can do. Yes, you can sit down here, but if you sit here, you know for a fact your tires are going to get popped from all the teams that are sitting above. And then once you have to leave, that's most likely not going to happen. So everyone's finding themselves a place to go. Circles send it up pretty well. And now, let's see, hard shift down towards south. And this is just, I mean, this circle shift was just one of those foretellings of how terrifying these circles would be the entire week, because we have seen some pretty beastly hard shifts this week. And now again we can go. I think it's that's one of the things I like to do with these analysis is as soon as the new circle pops, we take a pause and then we see what do these teams have to work with, because a lot of these teams are coming in from the north. We have, let's count it up, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, now we do have one player in, but 6 7 Petricors on the edge, we won't count them, but 8 with Chiamba. 8 teams outside the circle, 8 teams inside the circle. But for the teams that are outside, currently they're all sitting, if we ignore Petricor, they're sitting here and north, right? They're sitting on the very north, not a little less than half of the circle is where all these teams are going to be coming in from, unless of course if they try to wrap down to the south. And if we look at what they have of approach angles to this circle, you have a city on the east side, which means that from here to, well, here, if you want to get into the circle, you have to go through a city. That's not something you want to do, because if there's a team, which there is, infantry is sitting right here, inside the city, you're most likely not going to have a safe approach because you have to run through a team. So that's pretty terrifying. Or towards the west, same thing. If you go into the city from here, all the way down to here, you're going to be going through a city. And then we go, great, so what do we have left now? We can come into the circle from the north side. That's not necessarily too bad. We can come in from here, right? All this is technically free for us to approach from. But where do you go? Where do you go from here? If you're sitting on the north, if you're Zenith in this situation, and the circle shifts away from you, you look down towards the south and you go, great, where can we go? We've talked about this field. Because these hills are still in, that field is... yeah, that's a yikes area to be. You don't want to be there. So Zenith, sure, they can drive forward. They can go into the circle. But where do they stop? Do they crash this? Do all the 8 teams on the north side crash this little compound? That's probably not going to happen. And that's where you realize, great, we have, like, the only place, once we start driving and we get inside the circle, the first place for us where we can stop and not be under fire, wait, there isn't any. Unless if you go to the west and crash into the city. It's just this area, and that's what I'm trying to say with this, is that this area of the map is incredibly difficult to play. Because the center is the hillside that Afrika has control of right now, it's just really, really hard to play. So let's see what teams do decide to do. Let's see if some teams, like Oath maybe, try to wrap all the way down towards the south and come in from what will be, or what most likely will be, the more quiet side of the circle. The more quiet side of the circle. This is just an incredibly difficult circle for teams to play. Oath, try to wrap south. T1 already down here. Petrichor down here as well. Chiamba want to do the same thing. Daytrade want to do the same thing. And why do they do this? And again, this is for some, this is very common knowledge. For some, it might not be. When you see a circle hard shift, like it does here, it doesn't completely hard shift. It doesn't connect all the way down towards the blue. But when you see a circle go really heavily in any one direction, you know for a fact. Can we draw? Wait, can we draw here? Yes, we can. We'll draw it in the water. That's easy to see. When you have a circle, the first circle is blue. That's a stupid color to use here, but it's fine. We'll use it just for the sake of the purpose. Like, when you have a circle, most teams will try and get something in the middle. We'll draw. In here is where there's more teams, right? The majority of the teams will be in the middle somewhere, and then you will have less teams around the edge. So majority of teams in the middle, less teams, like if we talk about team density, less teams will be around the edge. When we then see the new shift happen, let's say it hard shifts up here, you now know, let's say you get hard shifted away from, you're sitting down here. And with the density being here, you now know that up on the backside, on the very edge, there should be no one. There should be no one there, right? So this area up here should be completely free. Maybe there's one team, but that's not something you worry too much about. So what some teams like to try and do is, instead of, because the shortest approach, the most direct angle would be like this to the circle, right? But they go, that's a little dangerous. We have to run through the low density area, and then straight through the previous middle, which is where we know a lot of teams were, to then go to the other side. You would just be running in straight behind all the other guys and get in trouble yourself. So what some of the teams like to do is go, great, now because we are already finding ourselves in the low to no density area, we can actually draw it up like this. We can say low density, high density area, medium density area, and low density area. And what I mean by density is an area where there are fewer players. We should have used the colors the other way around, but I hope it makes sense. So if a circle goes up here, if a circle hard shifts up here, and you find yourself on this side, instead of going through all of this, they go, let's just use this low to no density area and wrap through that all the way down here. Because the majority of these teams in the middle, they'll just be going like that, right? So if we can wrap around and avoid all the confrontations, we'll be fine. Does that make sense? I know it's a weird way to put it, but I hope it kind of makes sense. And you can see it happening here as well. So even though in this particular case, the center wasn't all that occupied, but you can see here just before the new circle pops, normally we'd have a lot more people in the middle, and with games to come, that'll be more of a case. But still, in this case, the center is very open because, as I said, there's nothing you can really do in there. Now, what was before considered the low density area has become the medium density area, right? And then on the very edge, we have more teams because these teams cannot go all the way into the middle. So now, with the circle hard shifting, they go, great, this is the low to no density area of this next circle. Let's try and see if we can find something down here. So Oath, sending it down. Tianba, sending it down. Daytrade, want to get down here. All these teams try and find their way to the backside of that hard shift and play in from there. Gen G want to do the exact same thing. They even go all the way out into the blue to get down to that more quiet side of the circle, or at least they expect it to be the more quiet side of the circle. Now the circle hard shifts again, and you can do the exact same thing. You see now, you have a center, the previous center of the circle, high density. And again, in this particular case with the mountains, it's a little different. But high density, medium density, low density, right? You can go, great, now we can just rotate down this way. And again, because of this area of the map in particular, it's a little easier said than done to just rotate down this way. But Gen G knows that they have found themselves on the more quiet side of the circle. Should they be able to find a place to go? Unfortunately for them, they don't. So, circle goes towards the city once more. It's a tricky position to be in because this hill, right now, I have to worry about what I draw. I think right here is the highest point of the circle. Everything, like up here, you have a little bit of plateau. The plateau extends to around here. And then everything else is just like this little ball and then downhill in this direction. This is a very nice drawing of topography. So up here is the high ground, which means that if you're on this side right now, if you're out towards the east, you don't know what's happening down here. If you're out towards here, you don't know what's happening up here or down here. If you're down here, you don't know what's happening up there or over here. You cannot see through this, obviously, with the way that mountains function in life. So it's very hard to gain any info. You can really only play up close and with what little info you have. And that little info is there's teams around us, we need to fight them. And that's what teams now start doing. You can see infantry, they know we got to do something. Crash their way straight into meta, take the fight to them. T1, take the fight to Oath. All of a sudden, all these edge teams are starting to fight. Cartographer, yeah, I would draw the prettiest maps. Easily. Liquid, forced to fight infantry. Everyone trying to just sort of make some space for themselves, because everybody wants to run into the next circle. Everybody wants to try and find a way to go into the circle, right? But if, and I've said this during the cast as well, if you're trying to run in, there is most likely going to be a team inside the circle that will be shooting at you. And there is also another team next to you that was trying to do the same thing. So if you're running in with another team right next to you, you got to try and take them out to make some more space for yourself. These guys might already be shooting at you, but you have to worry about the team that's next to you rather than the team that's inside. Which is why you can see all these teams right now, they're going great. We have to clear our left and right, and then we'll focus inward. Everyone taking fights to their neighbor trench teams to then try and wrap in with some more space in the circle. Jamba wrapping out to the side, saying clear this, because then we have a buffer room. Then we know that we can go in here, and we have some space to play. Now this, again, particular area of the map, there's a bit of a bowl down here, so it's a lot easier said than done in terms of where you can really go towards. So they try and sit tight, then I realize trouble is happening again. And again, doing the same thing. Wipe your sides, and then move forward. Wipe your sides, then move forward. Ends, they wrap out, they wipe their side, they move forward. D8, try to do the same thing, wrap on the edge of the circle, clear the team, and then move into the next circle. Next circle goes down the hill. Again, down the hill we go. Here is your downhill. A big plateau difference in terms of elevation of like this is much higher than this second level down here. Multi-circle gaming, of course, doing their best to stay alive inside the church. DA and Freak of Freaks. I thought this was a little interesting to me. So Genji had an opportunity earlier. I'm not gonna say that they should, but they had an opportunity earlier when T1 and Oath were fighting down here. So this fight escalates. They all pop off. And while PO runs over a little bit, they fall back again. They go, okay, there's so many knocked players over here. And I thought Genji were going to try and run over and see if they could third party this. But again, they know there's a team inside the compound. Maybe that's what helped them from trying to make that push. So they back off there. Then a lot of stuff happens. And they, once again, get an opportunity for a third party, because DA, they wrap around, they take the fight. A Freak of Freaks realize that ENS and DA are fighting and go, maybe we can get some kills there. And while Nox, when you can see all of the Freak of Freaks run out to take this battle towards them. And again, Genji, they hold their horses, they back off. But I think that's got to do with them knowing, well, we have to get down here at some point. So what would we rather? Move in now, which is what they end up doing. Move in now, while these two teams are fighting, and then whoever wins this fight will have to run through us when they try to come down the hill, or run up, take the fight, maybe win, and then have to move inside the circle with the blue on our back and all these teams shooting at us. And I think it's a wise decision here. I was just surprised during the game. I was surprised to see Genji not try and pounce on this and get some more kills. But seeing it back now, Multi-Circle Gaming are busy with Na'Vi, and I guess Shinboy was kind of just chilling on his own, not really being too much of an impact in that fight, at least not initially. Daytrade aren't really in a position to shoot at a whole lot of people right now, and they know that these teams are fighting. It's your chance to make a run for it. And I think that's what they realized. Instantly, they sprint back, they get into the car, they get going, they lose one, but they get inside the circle, while these teams are still fighting. So a pretty smart rotation from Genji. I thought they were going to do some more to try and go aggro on it, but they opt not to. And then this was just a brawl inside the church. Complete cluster of an engagement. I liked how Summer was positioned. I believe it was Summer. Sitting up underneath the roof, essentially, or ceiling, just looking at the door and trying to hold off people. Smokes thrown everywhere. Just a chaos of an endgame. And yeah, no, it was Ling Du. Ling Du was sitting up on the roof, trying to hold people from... Wait, was it? No, I can't remember. Was it Evil Lee? I can't really see. But yeah, I believe it's Evil Lee. They have like these planks up on the roof that he's sitting on. and takes out all of them in the end. So great game, great first game. Multi-circle gaming get off to a good start with a solid win there. It wasn't really too much of a hurdle for them. They were in the circle for quite a long amount of time. But overall pretty interesting game for sure. Now let's hop on over game number 2. In most situations, team need to win team fight on the edge to perform well. True, yeah, true. Especially if you want to be an edge team. Like if you just want to full speed send it into the middle, it's a different story. But if you want to have any success on the edge, you have to take those fights eventually. That is completely true. Game number 2. We'll remember, of course, also to just update the text so no one's gonna be confused about that. There we go. Game number 2 comes to start. Any differences here? Let's wait for the circles to pop. There we go. Anything out of the ordinary? Not really. Grimsheep looting down here again. Sonics, they might as well. I mean, they might as well split out one if they don't want to have the space to. If they know they're not being contested, DA opting to go and claim some terrain down towards day trade. Might as well try and see if you can rag up some more real estate. So Shrimsy will play on the hill on the south side. From here, you have great vision in this direction. So smart play by him. Have there been more sender teams in the earlier days of PUBG? Seems to me like there's... I think... When we say earlier days, if we think all the way back to like 2018 and the beginning of PUBG, teams were way more passive than they are today, at least in general. But that had a lot to do with the point system as well. Staying alive for longer was much more rewarding than trying to get kills. At least in EU, or like in the Western PUBG scene, it was much more rewarding try and stay alive than it was to going out and trying to get kills. You would never see teams try and take early fights, and I mean, maybe if they could avoid it, of course. I mean, if you accidentally run into another team, they'll fight each other. But much more often than not, you'd see teams try and stay alive for the most of it instead of running out and trying to fight each other. So back then, there was much more trying to full speed send it into the middle and just chilling in a compound. Similar to what we see in the weekly survival, actually. In the weekly survival, in the last week here, in week 4, we saw, what was it? On, was it game 3 or was it game 4? No, I can't remember. But one of the first games of the weekly survival, we saw 3 compound, like full-on pull-ups where they go 4v4 in the compound in the center of the circle, and you go, why would they even bother contesting a compound that early in the game? Normally, we just go, oh, okay, that compound is taken, we'll just go somewhere else. But because the placements are so valuable, with the weekly survival, obviously, you have to win the game. But because the placements were so valuable back in the day, a lot of teams would just contest compounds in the center early on to then sit around and wait for all the other teams to die, because trying to go out and hunt kills didn't really... It did matter. It did have an impact on the leaderboards, of course. But the placement points were much more important. Whereas to now, when we see in the weekly survival... then weekly finals, and the bottom 16 matches, of course. Whenever we use the super settings are much more kill rewarding. Like, yes, you can go and play passive and sit in a compound, but kills now matter a whole lot more than it used to. So there's much more reward in going out and finding kills early. You can have, if you have 6 kills in a game, if you can average 6 kills per game, your placement points almost don't even matter. That's just a bonus. If you can get 6 points every game just off of kills alone, you're pretty much guaranteed to be in the top of the leaderboards of any tournament that you play. Not necessarily in first place, but like within the top 5. So it's changed, and I think it's opened up a lot for teams to do things differently. I would still want to see the point system be like, now we're just talking completely meta-wise. I would still want to see the point system maybe be a little more placement rewarding. Not that I don't like people fighting each other. I think it's great. But I think it should be a middle point. Whereas right now, at least in my opinion, it's It's more kill heavy, but it's small things. You know, right now a win equals 10 kills. So a win is 10 points, and a kill is 1 point. I would love to see it maybe be 15 points for a win. That way you get kind of less points for killing people. But overall, I think we're in a pretty good state in terms of the point system right now. It's just small things, small, minute, what if situations. But yeah, that's about it. No worries, kind of. I'm always here to try and answer questions. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, if you have any questions, do feel free to write in the comments, and I'll do my best to try and answer them. Let's see. Circle Pups, picture call goes nope. Let's go in the opposite direction. Of course, they're just going up to loot. So no big deal for them. Just looked funny when you have the circle go down here and they go whoosh, up towards the north instead. Tianba, they opt to come in from the south. And again, this is much more. You can already see it now, right? Look at how many teams are already trying to set up in the center right now. Look at how many teams are trying to set up in the middle. You can see it now already, right? Once we get into an area of the map where you can start claiming center positions, the whole high density, medium density, low density graph or picture that we painted before becomes much more relevant, or much more, what do you say, much more effective. Let's see. Circle closing in. Navi, they're gonna be coming in late. Petrichor doing the same thing. Genji, I like their split out here to the west. So again, Genji not in a hurry. They want to be the team on the edge of the circle, and just similar to what we saw last game. So even though they could have pushed further in, here they're set tight. They wait for the next circle to pop, and look at how they're positioning themselves. Now let's see. Pio stays on a hilltop. He wants to get up. He wants to get up in the mountain so that he can see further. Genji, Loki, and Esta doing the exact same thing. Get up on the mountain, scout your way forward. Now they've scouted their way towards the south. They sent Loki down here. Pio, he hears Navi pull up. He then leaves. Loki, up on the hilltop, try and scout your way forward. See what's available. I like the way that Genji, even though it's a wide 2-1-1 split right now, I like the way they're positioning themselves to try and see what more info they can get from where they are positioned. Circle, heart shifts down towards the south, and now, again, as you can see, center, or previous center, very condensed with players. That means that once we get the heart shift, that south side, 2 players down here. Just 2 players on the bottom side of this circle. Everyone knows that this down here is going to be prime real estate, at least in terms of player count. I'm not going to say that it's prime real estate all the way, like all the time, because sometimes you get a hard shift that where that bottom side of the circle, there's just nothing you can play around. So therefore, it doesn't really matter. But for now, as you can see, there's only 2 players in all of this down here. So we'll see how many teams opt to try and either rotate down this way or down in this direction. Of course, if you do come from up here and you want to go back here, you would have to either go through Los Leones or well, underneath it somehow and all the way down. But we'll see how many teams opt to try and wrap around. Navi instantly down to the south. They go. Genji, they go up towards the hill that they've confirmed before. Meta, they're starting to drive around. They want to get all the way down to the south side. T1, they were actually inside the circle already, but they say we don't want to be here. We know we can get something better if we wrap all the way around. So they try and go underneath, as you see here. They try and wrap down south around. Infantry doing the exact same south side wrap. Meta want to get down on the south side. And all of a sudden, all these teams that were on the north before have managed to successfully find their way down to what was the more quiet side of the circle. It's something to look at whenever you see a hard shift. And that's why when me and Paperthin are casting, or when, well, to be honest, when everyone is casting, or when anyone is casting, that's why we really recommend you having the map stream open, because it's so interesting. It's so interesting to see this happen in the game itself. Look at how the teams are positioned right now. Once this circle pops, it's so interesting to see how teams maneuver. Like you go Petrichor, oof. What can you possibly do, guys? You just got that circle, just oof. That's a tough shift, right? It's so fun to see how they then overcome those issues with what they opt to do. Next circle, after that, shifts out towards the east. Boliang chilling in the blue. Not sure exactly what he's doing out there, but he will be coming back in towards the circle. And now, similar to last game, not completely, but similarly, we have an open area in the middle of the map. I'm going to draw it up something along the lines of... Oh, that was a bad drawing. I mean, technically, actually, it wasn't. Something along the lines of... Nope. Last try. This. With, of course, the exception of the compound itself. And a little bit of a dip over here. There's 2 dips over here. A dip there and a dip there. Other than that, because this hill is still in, and because these compounds are still in, everything that is in here, I can draw it up with green. Everything that's down here kind of looks like a reversed Africa or mirrored Africa. Everything that's down here, in between there, up there, is right now a suicide area. It's going to be no man's land. It's an area of the map that you cannot really utilize because these elevated positions have 2 good angles on your positioning. You can go into a place in the open. You can go, okay, but we have cover for this compound. Like the compound can't see us. You can go, great, that's perfect. The compound won't be shooting at you, but these other 4 teams will, and you're gonna die from sitting here. So you can see this is a pretty big portion of the circle. It's a pretty big portion of the circle that you, at least for right now, really cannot use for all that much. So for all these teams that are coming in from the south, for all the teams that are trying to wrap in from the north, having this much terrain be unplayable, it's gonna make things hard, because normally what we would see is that when a circle shifts, the teams that were in the previous center, which in this case would be over here, would all just go, okay, next circle shifts, let's just move down here. If we completely ignored where on the map that we were and just said, great, now all these teams that were in the center before, let's say these 4 teams, Multicircle Gaming, DA, Tianba, and Freak of Freaks. Tianba have a 2-way split, of course, but still, they would try and move towards the new center. They would all make their way in this direction, and that would make space for some of the teams outside to slowly wrap in behind them. That's what we talk about when we talk leapfrogging, when we talk about trying to overtake the team's spot. So let's say Sonic sit down here, they see Daytrade leave, they go in and they take their spot. And then someone sees Sonic leave to take that spot, they go take their spot. You know, that's kind of how things work in terms of leapfrogging and taking positions. But because there's nowhere for the teams in the middle to go, because these teams can't really go anywhere down here, as we just drew up before, there's really nothing to claim. Because of that, they won't be moving in, which means that these guys can't do that whole we'll take the spot from the previous team that was there. That means that these guys can't take that spot that was there. And then that whole chain of overtaking the previous team's compound dies. Which means that for the teams that are then finding themselves outside the circle, like all these guys, they're going to be forced to take fights. So we see that happening. Whenever the center is an open one, you see fights earlier in the game. Just a fun thing to keep in mind. Whenever the center is open, like it is right now, plenty of unused terrain, you see fights happening much earlier in the game. Let's hold a pause for a second. I'm seeing messages in the chat. I gave 2 examples of games we're entertaining to watch. Sorry, let me scroll up. Is TPP the most popular perspective, and why are PUBG leagues being played in FPP? Over time, Beef. Initially it was in TPP, but, and I know some people will be upset when I say this, but people found out that first-person shooting was more competitively viable than third-person shooting. That's one aspect. Also, in Europe and in the Western world in general, FPP shooting games or FPS shooters are more normal. Remember that when then PUBG came out, Fortnite wasn't a thing. What other games are there in third person that are battle royales? Fortnite, Realm Royale, all those games, they didn't exist back then. So a lot of people were saying, can we please have FPP? Because we don't like all that wall hugging, as people call it. Like standing up against the wall and looking around corners, standing up against the window and looking out the window, even though technically your character is not showing on the other side. People didn't like that. People didn't enjoy the whole third person peeking advantage thing. And then FPP became more accustomed. And it's also just, in my opinion at least, again, people are entitled to their own opinions, but in my opinion, first person is much more entertaining to watch and much more entertaining to play. Yeah, that's my thought on it anyway. Yeah, I think it was the Western scene very, very strongly advertising that we should keep things in first person, because third person was not good. Not for competitive. If third person is fine for having fun and running around and doing fun stuff, but not for competitive aspects of the game. Let's see. New circle pops, and also there were some other measures. You never have thought that Zenith would have won that game when the circle popped? Me neither. Circle pops, where do we find Zenith? All the way up here. Zenith didn't have an easy time this weekend, and still they came out on top. Very well played by them. They're in a position from where they cannot scout anything. All they can do is push slowly into the circle and hope that things will go their way. Kickstart is chilling, getting himself a bike, trying to scout forward, and allowing his team to rotate forward. Imagine if they changed it completely to FP instead of splitting it. We mightn't have butts then. Yeah, but again, as I said, first of all, we have to cater to both audiences. And second of all, PvP is, I mean, pretty fun when you're just looking to have fun. You know, if you just playing around, doing fun stuff. Keep in mind, I mean, this game was initially created to be TPP. It was created based on the Daisy and Arma and all those things. Games which were TPP games, at least as far as I know. I've never actually played either of them. But yeah, people advocated they wanted FPP, and then they changed it. Let's see. New circle, hard shifts again. A lot of hard shifts coming into to this tournament. Now is when things get really tough, right? Now is when we reach that, okay, so there are so many areas of this map now that are completely open. And look at how many teams have to move. Look at how many teams have to make moves from here. Where do they go in this circle? Now is when the dips start becoming viable. And we go, how can they all of a sudden? How can you all of a sudden start playing those dips? Because the positions of the map that were making those dips hard to play are no more. The dips are now playable because that hill is going to be out. This hill is going to be out. This compound is going to be out. And you can now play up above. You have nothing to worry about over here. I mean, of course you have something to worry about in terms of opponents. But now you can start playing those positions, and that's why people go there. So teams start wrapping around. Teams that were up towards the north side realize, well, we're never going to get down there. So chaos ensues up towards the north. All kind of hell breaks loose up there. DA trying to hold tight up towards the north side. Everyone fighting one another. Zenith get 2 players knocked. They lose 2, down to just 2 players left alive. Zenith are down to, keep this in mind, Zenith are down to 2 alive with 47 players still alive in this game. And they get eliminated. Out they go. So tough game for them. I mean, they had some really tough games where things just didn't go their way. And even in the games that they did end up performing well in, they still didn't have a chance to do anything, practically. The circle shifts down towards the south. Infantry and Meta, they've been sitting side by side for quite a while. In the meantime, we have 3 teams in this compound. 3 teams that are inside this one compound. Day Trade, chilling in the compound. Sonics, chilling. They're sitting in the sitting in the church, shooting at absolutely everything that they can. Sonics playing the north side of it. Infantry, they try to cross over. I like this push from infantry. So Petrico, and I was a little surprised by how this went down. Petrico has Mamu split up the hill. They want him to wrap up and gain some info. And they don't see him at all. Oath has no clue that Mamu makes it up here. At least it didn't seem that way. Now, all of a sudden, the remaining 3 players are starting to get shot at. They're starting to get naded. Everything's starting to go wrong. And Memo is just taking too long. 2 players get knocked. He's sneaking his way forward. All of a sudden, he gets seen. He gets knocked. And there's just not a whole lot you can do. So if you're long, you're like, oh, what can we do here? Okay, now I go for the rest. And infantry, sitting on the other side, they've been not fighting with, but they've been kind of swearing off against meta for quite a while. They now realize, great, we have 3 teams down here still. We have meta right next door. We need to be able to go somewhere. What better than a third party opportunity up towards the north? So they see them fighting. They see the commotion. They see 2 players knocked on the side of Oath, and they go, great, this is our chance to wrap up and get some kills. So they go up in this direction, try to find kills. They realize, okay, we didn't see what we wanted to see. We didn't get the instant flushes. We didn't get more knocks on people. We got to back off again. Then they go inside the circle. They realize, great, we couldn't actually get those fast couple of kills up there and clear them out. So let's back off and play it safe. Or play it smart anyway. They wrap down. They get inside the circle. They know that all kinds of hell is going to break loose down here. In the meantime, the compound up towards, like the church compound is a hot hell as well, with a lot of teams around here. All 4 DA players are here. Sonics are on the north side hill, like the hill, downhill up here. Oath are still shooting from this side, and Daytrade, of course, inside the compound and doing everything they can to keep opponents away. In the meantime, down towards the south side, the circle is closing in. T1, they managed to get out of the compound. I liked how they did it too. Infantry leave. They, of course, hear the vehicles leave. And while all this is happening, and meta is shooting down up in this direction and down in this direction, T1 manages to wrap underneath. And look at this, they get up here. Meta sends it down to Hikari. And they now get to play outside. Yes, you're with your back against the blue, but you're not trapped in the compound anymore. Now you can move freely forward with smokes, of course. You can try and make your way in towards that next circle. They wrap their way forward. They try to make their way in. And they get the kills on them. The fight continues up on the north side. 2 players from DA, I believe. Yes, 2 players from DA end up going down. Then all of a sudden, and I don't know how this happened. I thought, I mean, whenever Ragnar went down, I thought T1 had this area completely on lockdown. There was just 2 Freaks players left, but all of a sudden they start popping off. They go completely crazy. They take down 3. I think it's actually just Hansia who takes down 3 from T1. And again, a Freaks, or if not a Freaks infantry, they sit on the north side of the road. The road is here, and they go, "What do? We only have this to play around right now, or technically we only have this to play around. We need a third-party opportunity. We need a chance to go somewhere. We have to fight somebody. This is the perfect timing for them." They go, great, they're fighting. Let's just run down and third-party that. 1 gets knocked from above, and now DA realizes the exact same thing. People are knocked. This fight came to an end. Hansia and Akant went 2v4 against all of T1. They can now push down. They play tight. They don't push. They just... We can use this chaos to cross the road without anyone noticing. They managed to do that. They do get noticed, but they do manage to get safely across. Fight escalates. Hansia finds 1, finds 2. Akant finds a 3rd. Now they know there's only 1 alive down here. This is our chance to wipe this. Similar to what happened with infantry down here. What happened to infantry down here pushing across. We have a wounded team down here. And if we push fast enough, we can make them pay. So they run down, they clear them out, they get the kills, and now all of a sudden, DA, with only 2 players, have full control of the south. And what's best about that is that as we see the next circle pop, final circle of the game, we now know the circle is going to end. If we look at where the dot is, it's somewhere in here. The game is going to end right around here. So all they have to do now is wait. Wait, is this phase 7 or is this phase 8? There could actually be one more phase. Now I'm not sure. But either way, it's odds that the chance that this, because even if we take the last circle, we have to find it. Oh no, it is the last circle. Okay, never mind. It is the last circle. I'm stupid. It is a dot. So you can see the game is going to end right here. And what better for DA than just let all these teams fight? There's a 4v4 in the compound, and Mill, I mean, they don't know about him, but they know that there's a solo somewhere because there's still 11 players alive, right? So it's going to be at least 3 teams on the other side who have to fight each other. They came in from the west, they cleared all of this, and then they cleared all of the south too. So DA knows that this entire side of the road is theirs and theirs alone. No one can be over here at this point. There could still be players down the road. And then you have the compound to worry about. So just smoke off, prone down, wait it out, let all these guys do their thing against each other, and win it out. And this is the worst thing that could happen for them. You have two 4-man teams alive, and you're hoping, if you're only a duo left alive, you're desperately hoping that they do a lot of damage to each other. Because if, let's say, it becomes a complete brawl, 3 down on both sides, and Flush is coming in as well, all of a sudden you only have to worry about 2 solos, or maybe 2 duos. But here, they wipe all of Sonics without taking any casualties, and now you go, if you're DA, you go, oh, god damn it. Now we're in a 2v4. That ain't gonna be easy. But, they look at the player count. There's still 7 players alive. We're 2, great. That means 5 left alive in terms of opponents. There's gotta be more than 1 team still. There has got to be more than 1 team. So DA, don't just instantly get up and go, great, okay, let's just take this 2v4. They know there has to be more than 1 team alive if they can do simple math, which I strongly assume that they can. Should Sonics have moved differently? I don't think so. It was a really tough decision for them. Maybe, like, complete hindsight, they could have tried to throw smokes on the roof. I'm not sure if maybe they actually did that already. If they even had any smokes left, they had been playing in the open for a long time. Maybe throw some smokes up on the roof or mollies up on the roof so that the players up there couldn't see anything. But the roof is so big that trying to smoke off a molly off the whole thing is practically impossible because a lot of the damage did come in from above. But the thing is, you're looking, like when you're down here, you're looking at the doors, you're looking at the angles down here, you're looking at the windows, you're looking at so many different things. And I guess roof just wasn't a priority, at least not initially, because when they crossed over, they lose 2 on the crossing, right? As soon as they get over to that, or to the other side. So, just unfortunate timing. And too much to ask for them to be able to hold off the entire roof. Flashes were being thrown all over the place, and yeah, just a really difficult fight. And well played by Daytrade. They get the wipe, they get to hold off, and now Mill, the solo player that no one expected anything from, because for Daytrade, they don't know, or maybe they do, but they don't necessarily know if DA has 2 or 3 alive. So they might think that it's a 4v3, right? With 7 alive, we're 4, they could be 3. Theoretically, they could just be those 2 teams left alive, and all the opponents were on the other side of the road. So they don't necessarily know about Mill. They were looking for him. They were looking around for him. But Mill finds an insane double. And this is everything that DA could have ever hoped for. Everything they could hope for in terms of how they could win this. Because with the circle closing in, they just cannot, like, they can't get up in time. Mithralius, Code sorry, gets knocked. Mithralius tries to wrap around. And keep in mind, these are still 2 different teams, right? So it's a 1v1v1. Mill has done a ton of damage already. Mithralius flushes these 2, steals 2 points. Mill tries to continue moving forward. He ends up going down. He only had 8 HP and 0 meds at all. Like, he had no meds left. They had been fighting so much Petrichor on the other side of the circle that he couldn't do anything. That he just, had to try and make his way in. Didn't work out. Flash finds him. And then ring around the road, so they run around the smokes. Mithralius finds Flash. Flash goes down. DA wins the game. 4v1v2, you'd have to think that the 4-man team would always win, but kudos to Mill for some solid shots coming in there as they net themselves the victory. That was game number 2. Exactly. Very, very good double knock from Mill in that one. Let's hop over to game number 3. All right. There we go. Plane path. I'll flash it here for you just a couple of times. There we go. Anything out of the ordinary as we see the first circle. Is there anything in chat that stands out to you with where teams are going? Tell me. Enlighten me. I'm all ears and eyes. Mainly eyes, because I can't hear what you guys are saying. Is there anything out of the ordinary? Nobody going to school. That's true. And if you look at the plane path, it's not like you couldn't go school. But 4am ain't here. STK ain't here. TSM ain't here. A lot of teams that normally would go school didn't go school. Did that change for the next game? Who knows? But we'll keep it in mind. Good observation. No one went towards school. Nobody went over towards school. Team Liquid should have taken school if they did their work. Now, one team that could have jumped in this direction, but opted not to. Are down here. And when you look back at when Liquid jumped out of the plane. So at this point, I'm sure that Liquid are expecting DA jump up in this direction and just take this. Because that's what they would normally do, right? They'd go up to Rozhok, they'd take this, and then if they have a chance to, they'll wrap out and take this as well. So that is most likely, what Liquid are expecting. Liquid jumps out of the plane there. We already have one Liquid player out. 2 Liquid players out, actually. All 4 of them, sorry. There's no way of them to know. Like, there's no way that they can know that school isn't being taken. Because if they were to jump school, that team would be jumping out there. Like, this is the shortest distance, right? They would be jumping out here. Liquid is already flying. So there's no way for them to know. There's no way that they know. So I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't agree that they know it's gonna be free. They could easily take all of it. Easily. Had they, I mean, clearly they could, because it wasn't taken. They don't want to go there because they can't fight for him. True. That's the reason, I think, true. That's got to be the main argument. So why DA went down here, I'm not sure. Maybe they were just expecting the circle to go military with this plane. Which it almost did. It could have gone down towards military, but of course didn't happen. Yeah. Good observation. Liquid up towards his Niam. Could have potentially gone towards the west. Opted not to. Now let's see how things are gonna unfold from here. Tiamba gonna go up towards George Pole, get themselves looted up, and splitting out, getting looted out. Navi splitting as Naya with Liquid. That's not something we see too often, but of course, Navi on these planes do like to jump out here, get looted up, maybe take the east of Yas. But because Zenith out here towards the east as well, it makes things a little more complicated, and they have to wrap further towards the west. First circle, gonna start closing in. DA and Infantry, 2 very stubborn teams. DA rotate forward. I have to sneeze 1 sec. Oh, come on, sneeze. I hate it when it doesn't actually... God damn it. I hate it when you have to sneeze and it doesn't actually happen. Oh, it feels so weird in your nose. Either way, DA send it across the bridge. They want to scout their way forward. They full speed send it into the compound. No scouting or anything. But they want to of course, take the compound so that they can see further forward. They pull up into infantry. 9 stays alive for surprisingly long on his own. And all of a sudden, we just have this 4-man stalemate. Everyone's just sitting there, not really being able to push anything. 1 goes down, and infantry down to 3. But these no-loot buildings, as we call them, these buildings, they're just... For those you guys don't know. Can you just Google it and see a picture of it? If you just Google no loot. No, we can't. Either way. Oh yeah, we can. These buildings. That's an old picture. But But those buildings are incredibly difficult to push inside. You only have 2 doors. If you want to go in elsewhere, you have to vault through the windows. This staircase upstairs is extremely narrow. And not only that, but you can sit behind the staircase. So, I mean, you guys probably know this, but I'm just going to explain it anyway. If you run upstairs, these are the staircases. Very well drawn by me. You have the plateau up here, and a person can be standing up here. So when you're running up the stairs this way, he can be standing up here shooting at your neck as you try to make your way forward. So it's just an incredibly difficult building to push, and understandably so, DA decides not to. So they're going to be sitting down here the way that they are right now. Oath still down towards the military side of things. They're going to wait things out. They didn't hear any shots on the other side, so Balefrost realized, you know what, it's probably safe to cross. They do cross, and they turn out to be just fine on that crossing. New circle, gonna pop, down towards the south we go. And then we can go into the same situation as before and go, okay, so what do we have that's actually playable and available inside this circle? Because right now, this whole field is pretty terrible. You don't want to be forced into this field. And why don't you want to be forced into this field? Because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that, and because of this. Maybe not all the way down there. We'll go from here. Because of all the orange areas, and this as well actually, and this as well actually. Because of all the orange areas, and this, you don't want to be in that field. If you sit out here, unless if you're sitting inside a shack, of course, which would usually get your vehicle destroyed. If you're sitting out here, you're most likely going to die. Because of the hills still being in, because of you not really having anywhere to hide, and that's just not a good thing to do. So if we look at how big a portion of the circle this is, that you really can't use for a whole lot, and also take for granted that no one's gonna try to go down to the military side of things, at least not at this point anymore. You can see now with the way that we draw it up, that leaves just this left to play. That leaves just this area left to be played. That is not a whole lot, especially not in phase 2 for 63 people. So not a whole lot available to be played. And again, because we can't play anything in the center, a lot of fights escalate early. Fights between Petrichor and Frigga Freaks forced to happen. Zenith try to find their way into the open. They'll be sitting tight here for the next I don't know how long. Liquid ends all forced to try and make the rotations in, trying to find angles of approach. Liquid try and wrap down. They end up going down towards Gen G. New circle pups. Similar story. Since we still have, I'm gonna draw it in orange again, so it makes sense. Since we still have these hills in. Sorry, that was disgusting. Slimy throat. Since we still have these 4 elevated positions in, you can't do a whole lot with the fields unless if you go inside a shack, of course. Which Oath decides to do. Sit tight inside a shack, wait it out. Na'vi want to find their way in. They say, we don't want to go into the field. Let's take the fight to Tiamba. But at the same time, they go, maybe we don't want to fight Tiamba. But they realize that they're forced to. They wrap back up. They take the fight to them. Try to eliminate them. Don't succeed as fast as they would have hoped to. And now the circle gets even worse. But at least, we've shifted out this, and this. So now, in terms of the hills and what's a nuisance to playing in the field, we only really have to worry about the south side. As long as you're playing the field in a position where you're not exposed to the south side hill, whether it be playing on the north side of a hay bale, or playing behind a tree, or playing behind your vehicle, whatever it is, as long as you're not exposed to the back side of the hill when you're peeking and doing different things, you really only have to worry about what other teams are in the field with you. Whereas to before, if you're Zenith, you have to worry about these guys, and these guys, and those guys, and these guys, and those guys, because they could all potentially get angles on you. So now, that's you don't have to worry too much about that anymore. Sigh of relief. Everyone is waiting. You can see everyone is waiting to crash into the fields. Everyone is waiting to move into the fields until they're and one thing is that they've been shifted out. One thing is that the game now says, in a couple of seconds, you will be in the blue, but that doesn't mean the team is going to move instantly. So Petrichor, they can't really make this push into the field before they know that these guys have actually moved away from that hill. Because even though the next circle is here and it's all good and dandy, they can't make that full speed send before these guys have actually left the position that they're in. So they're waiting around. You can see sitting around waiting for them to make a move. Because they never do, Sonics, they stay up here for so incredibly long. They stay up here for so long. They allow for teams to get underneath them. Because they stay up there for so long, other teams can't really push out into the field. And now when we finally shift it out, Ents can push down towards the field, towards the open. Meta can play in the open. And now you can start and try to utilize those fields a little more because the hills are now out. The only field, or the only team on the hills now is Day Trade. They'll be sitting up here. They'll be spreading out, trying to take control. I'm surprised to see them not up to... Actually, no. You know what? I'm not. They did play pretty aggressive up on that hillside. Not that they pushed anything, but they were peeking and shooting at practically everything that you could see. It's just sometimes to see Day Trade, as good as they are at shooting, sometimes they take a more passive approach, and it surprises me sometimes. But in this case, actually, they did play it pretty well up in those hills, at least early on. In the meantime, while they know that they don't really have anything to worry about from down here, and they know that this compound is occupied, these guys are shooting somewhere else, and these people are just hiding inside shacks, or not hiding, but playing inside the shacks. T1 says, you know what? While you guys are busy doing something else, we will just clear the entire field for you. We'll start over here, kill them off, then we'll run over towards the west, kill them off, and then we'll make our way in. Just wipe. They start here. Wipe, clear. Wipe, clear. Similar to what we saw them do on Miramar. It's just the more teams you can push away, or preferably kill, the more teams you can force to move away from you. The more space you have to make your way in. Your amount of space to make your way inside the circle becomes bigger. Also, there's a pretty good chance that had Navi stayed alive there and T1 had forced them to move out here, they would have been forced to run into this team that they could then third party. Does that make sense? So by shoving teams away from you as you try to approach your circle, not only do you make space for yourself, you also set yourself up, at least potentially, for some third party opportunities. And T1, of course, did not the third party thing, but they managed to force teams out by just killing them. So smart playing by T1, making their way forward. Now, of course, they are within the eyesight of Oath, so a little tricky position here. And then this thing happened. I'm surprised. And here I was surprised. Because Flash, right now, his main task is looking down here. They know there's multiple teams here. It's been quiet for a while, but nades have been thrown, shots have been fired. They know that there's more than one team down here. Because had there only been one team, they would have been much more aggressive. They would have been shooting at everything in the open. They would have been peeking up here. Maybe they would have tried to send one up the hill. And I think because Flash has been holding this for so long, I don't know if he gets impatient, or maybe he's called to say, you know what? I mean, they're gonna do their own thing for a little while. Flash, just come over and help us hold Oath, because they know, Day Trade knows that Oath has players, or at least there are two players in the multiple players in these shacks, and they know that this shack is out. Whoops, this shack is out. So they go, let's hold this. These guys we don't worry too much about right now because they're inside the circle. They can just chill. But these guys up here, they have to move. Let's try and see if we can kill them. And I think that's what happens because Flash kind of gives up the angle down towards infantry. And that allows for Bowling to push up and over. Now, you see as the circle starts shifting, their focus is 2 over here. And then I go, why? I mean, okay, so they make it across. They don't get a knock on it. They do tag him once. Then a knock comes in. And I go, why is the focus on these guys? They're out in the open. If they try to run anywhere, T1 will spam shoot at them. Rather than, I'm not sure if Zenith can actually see that. But at least for T1, they will give you the warning. Like, if they start running in the open, they will see you and they will start shooting. And if you hear a billion shots from T1, turn around and see if they're actually trying to make this push down towards the forest. So they still have 2 guys committed towards the east, while this is getting shifted out. That was a little surprising to me. That they only have 2 guys down here. But they know for a fact that because this compound is getting shifted out, there's going to be stuff going on down here. Still, they're standing down here. They're looking this way. Now Nurens comes back, but his teammates are all done. Like, his teammates are all gone, and they lose 2 because of it. Had they played a 3-1 at least, had they at least had 3 over here, looking in this direction, and just had Puchus alone, because, I mean, what are the chances that Oath are going to try and make a run from this right now? Not very big. They could still get a hard shift back towards the east that would keep them in. So them committing to a 2-2 rather than prioritizing to try and keep out whatever is coming uphill from the compound, I think that's what got them killed. All of a sudden now Puchus is alone. They had the best position in the circle and they gave it up because their, at least in my opinion, because their priorities were wrong. They end up going down. Puchus is alone now. We can't do a whole lot. DA up to crash down the hill. Makes perfect sense. And while all this commotion happens, of course, infantry, they're wrapping up the hill. Isn't there expectation that yeah, but even if they don't, they still have to be ready to take the aftermath, right? I mean, one thing is that you expect the team to fight, sure, but when the circle starts closing in and it doesn't happen, like if you know, which I'm pretty sure they did, if you know that there are 2 teams in this compound and you don't hear them fighting each other, and the circle is shifting out the compound, there are 2 scenarios, 2 things possible. Either A, or I guess 3 things, if we count cheating. There are 3 things possible. Either A, they're teaming and they're sitting right next to each other and they're running out together hand in hand. That's obviously not going to be the case. So that one is kind of out of the window. Then we have option 2, which is they're tanking blue. Like they're just so stubborn that they're sitting in their rooms, they're tanking blue, and they just go, we got the compound first, it's ours, we don't want to move. That's option 2. Also very unlikely. And then there's option 3. In order for them not to be fighting, that's got to be because one of the teams are trying to move out. Or they're doing something where they can't see each other. The circle is actively moving in right now. They should be sitting up here saying, this is the only angle of approach. They know Zenith are down here. They've been shooting at them earlier. If any team tries to make this wrap in, if they try to run up this hill, Zenith will shoot at them. If these guys try to run to the west, T1 will shoot at them. They have their alarms, like their tripwires, set up perfectly. Zenith will give them the warning there. T1 will give them the warning there. So no one can wrap up this way. Like no one can run up here without a warning coming from up here. No one can run up here without a warning coming from up here. The only place, at least in my opinion, that they could potentially get pushed from is that direction. Because if they were fighting, if they were all fighting in the compound, they'd be shooting all the time, right? So they would know that too. The only place they could come up without them getting that warning ahead of time is there. And they don't prioritize it. You can see it. He's moving over in this direction, trying to hold off. And then when they lose 2, that's when he goes back, gets naded, goes down. And that's just unfortunate. In the midst of all of this, happening, Zenith realized, great, we have to move as well. What better than trying to make a move as this is happening? So they make the run down towards the south. They try to hold out. And Zenith gets the reses up on the boat below the hill. The thing is, the team that were down here, they couldn't make that play up. Why? Because Zenith were holding them. Now it's Zenith who are there, which means that they know for a fact there's no one holding them, right? So now they can make that play themselves. Smart playing by Zenith. Really smart playing by Zenith. To backtrack and backfill and do things that the other teams couldn't do because of Zenith's position. But the position that made that push impossible, that Zenith were playing from, is now out the circle. So no biggie. They don't have to worry about it anymore. Now they can decide for themselves whether they want to try and push up this hill or whether they want to wrap around underneath. Roth over the top. One goes down. And all of a sudden, you find yourself in a 4v4 in the middle of the open. Teams were down to like 3 bullets. No vests, no helmets, no nothing. Just a cluster of a game. And it pains me to say, because it does end up with Zenith winning. We can't really do too much analysis off of what. No, sorry, wait, what? Oh yeah, Oath won. Sorry. It was just so fun to me that Zenith, usually it's never the team that sits in the middle of the field since phase 2 that survives all the way to that end game. It was just so fun to see that they actually managed to do that. They played it well. They played it slow, but they played it well, Zenith. It was just so fun to see. Usually it's not those teams that are forced way out into the field that early on that end up winning. Zenith through the game. I believe that they had a chance to hold them at the shack better as well. But it was a tough one. They could have played passive on the dot, yeah, but they were very low on everything. No utility, no nothing. It was, you had a chat with Roth about it. They could have been more passive, sure. You see them pushing 3 over the top. It's a tough one. Again, I haven't gotten permission to show actual in-game footage in my streams here, yet. Then we could have gone back and tried and seen some of it, but yeah, it's a tough call. It's a tough, like, in the heat of the moment type thing. But exactly, hindsight thing. But good game overall, fun game. But again, one of the big blunders to me was Daytrade's decision up on that hillside. I think they could have gotten themselves a win there. That they then, because had they been 4 alive coming into the final circle up on that hill, that could have been a whole other story. Now let's hop on over to match number 4. Let's check here as well. There we go. What was said in chat before? Sorry, let me read back. Walking, random fact for 1,000 EP, for 1,000 channel points. My webcam is a oh my god, I can't even do a random fact correct. As a Logitech C922. They were looking to take the aftermath of the fight, then cover all their bases. Yeah, but the thing is, they didn't have to cover the other bases. They didn't have to cover anything. If you're talking about day trade, because they had the other teams doing that for them. But again, that was the last game. Let's continue on to the next one. Plane path, pretty straightforward. A little bit of a stretch to go out towards the west. And let's see now if anything has changed from what happened in the last game to this one. DA shouldn't get school and apps and Rossock for free. But they did. They did. This game was a fun one, by the way. If you haven't, you know what, actually, if you haven't watched this game, I never really say this, but I always just go, you know what, go back and watch the game afterwards if you haven't watched it yet, and you're watching the analysis, that's fine. But if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Twitch, I do strongly recommend that you go back, and I wouldn't want to lower my own viewership, but I do strongly recommend that you go back and watch this game, and then you come back and watch my VOD. Or you watch the rest of the analysis on YouTube once I upload it there. Because this game was fun. And I am going to be spoiling it for you, obviously, with what we're going to see in this match. This game was really interesting. So if you haven't watched this game already, I recommend you hopping back and watching it. It's a game 4 of day 1 of the week 4 finals. Really fun game. Now I've warned you. You can also just stick around. What happens early? Infantry starts chasing day trade in a car with an Uzi. That's how things start. Norins goes down. Infantry goes mine now. They get themselves a kill and they continue their day. Just chilling. Easy game. First kill going in the favor of infantry. Teams start rotating on over. Petrichor, they're doing a bit of a bridge camp. Nothing's going to happen. Gen G able to get across pretty safely. Here comes Sonics. They want to make a cross on over. And Longska able to find 1 kill on his own. He needs the help from his teammates, and here they come. All of infantry, full speed pull up. 1 goes down, 2 goes down, 3 goes down. All of a sudden, the entirety of Sonics are eliminated within seconds. It literally took something like 4 seconds once the fight popped off. Perfect timing while all this happens from DA. They stop. You see it here. They stop on the hill. They hear the commotion. They go, great. If these two teams are fighting here, that means that no one should be prioritizing the bridge right now. Let's utilize that to get the hell across, because this is pretty much a guaranteed melee game. Okay, there is still a chance that it could shift back up towards the north. But when you're down here and you see these teams fighting, oh great, let's try and utilize that to get across for free. They managed to do that. So out and across they go. Smart timing, great read by DA there. Infantry goes, okay, now we got 5 kills already. We could just cross the bridge. And then the rest of them goes, well, okay, fair enough. We'll do it. We'll cross. We'll cross. We don't want to sit around and camp the bridge. Oh, wait, do we? Do we want to camp the bridge? I think maybe we do. So they go back to start camping the bridge again, but from the other side this time around. They get all the kills onto T1, and now 9 minutes into the game, infantry already has 9 kills. 9 people have died in the game. Infantry has killed all of them, and we're still not 10 minutes into the game yet. Infantry has cleared a 1/6 of the server in only 9 minutes. That's how wild this game came off at the beginning. That's just the beginning. That is just the beginning. Well, let's see now. Fights escalate out here with Ensign Liquid, and this was an interesting one as well because they both have the same plan. Go up here, scout forward. Of course, I mean, they've seen in the kill feed. They've seen infantry's name in the kill feed all day long, and they go, oh no. Oh no, do we really have to worry about crossing the bridge because infantry are there? That's gonna be annoying. So they know there's something going on down here. They don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but they know that something down here is not good. So they go, instead of just full speed sending it, let's scout forward. And you can just see how it's just perfectly timed by both of them. Stop, scout up the hill. No one's there. Stop, scout up the hill. No one's there because they're coming from each their side. They don't see each other. This hill seems clear from both sides, and they make it up there at the exact same time. James now up there on his own. He realizes, great, there's people above me. Let's go back now and try and see if we can fight them off. Circle is coming in, and all of a sudden you're forced to hard commit to this engagement. Liquid finds 3. They lose 1. Rustenmar has to leave. Just a tough fight to have to take for all of them. And then this happens. This circle right here. Boink. What the fuck is this shift? Look at this circle. How absolutely garbage it is. Do players have a global kill feed? No, so the way that it works is that everyone in the game has a global kill feed. But just like with normal games, you can always see the flushes. You cannot always see the knocks. Isn't that how it works? Am I weird now? So you have to be within a certain distance in order to see the knocks, but you can always see if a player gets flushed. I don't even know why I'm questioning myself on this right now. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Now I'm confused. It's the same as last week when we did these analysis streams. I asked, like, someone asked a question and I answer and then I go, wait, is that even true? But I'm pretty sure that's the case. That you can always see flushes, but you can only sometimes see knocks. So of course, they would have seen the flush on the day trade player. They would have seen the flushes on all of the Sonics players. They would have seen the flushes on all of the T1 players, and that way they would have known something is happening over on this side of the circle. No, that is true. That is knocks though. If you're outside of a certain distance, you cannot see all the knocks in the kill feed, but you will be able to see the flushes. This circle though, this circle happens, and let me ask myself, what makes this circle terrible? Let's start off with the water, shall we? There's a lot of it, a lot of water. So if we look at the size of this circle in terms of terrain you can actually utilize for something, there's not a lot of it. That's the first point. Second point is, what is your approach to this circle? A, you could be coming in from the main island, of course, take a boat, do something like that. B, you could be driving in from the west. The thing is, there's a big old mountain here. We all know it. The good old military mountain. And you only really have these angles of approach. Because you would have to some extent wrap around the mountain, right? We still have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams up towards the north. And it's just a tricky situation. It's just really tricky. Let's see what does end up happening. Navi goes, oh, let's take the ferry. Rostenma is waiting, hoping that he can get to the ferry in time. Everyone starts fighting inside towards the east. Zenith goes, you know what? We don't want to do anything. We don't want to attract too much attention to ourselves. Let's just start swimming across. They do that. Navi, they take the ferry. Rostenma goes, wait for me. He runs down. He doesn't get there in time, and the ferry leaves without him. Rostenma didn't get to the ferry in time. That's unfortunate. Now the new circle pops, and you go, okay, so how could the circle possibly be worse than this? And the game goes, let me show you. And then this circle pops. And I had to actively go in and see where this circle was centered. Because there is this rule that the dot, the center position of the circle, no matter what circle it is, if it's circle 1, circle 2, circle 3, doesn't matter. The center of the circle always has to be on land. It cannot be in the water. So if we kind of look here, so it's just underneath there, and then it's kind of there, just underneath there. So it's just underneath there and just underneath there. The dot is something like here. That is as far into the water as we could possibly have gone. I mean, I guess technically we could have, let me see. Phase 3, technically, we could have had this circle. I guess this would have been worse, would it? Which of these two circles are worse? The red one, let me just, it would have been there. Which of these two circles are worse? Tell me, chat, if you have an opinion on it. Wait, now my chat says connecting to chat. Is my chat broken? It's not broken. Red is worse. At least red keeps in all of Georgopol and Novo and some of the compounds towards the north side. Yeah, exactly. Because the circle after this, and that's the thing, right? The circle after this, had red been the circle, had red been the next circle would have shifted something like this and kept so much of Novo in. Because it has to try and exclude water, right? So the red would have been, like the next circle would have been something like that. Because of this one, the next one is gonna, if you just remove the red one real quick, the next one is gonna shift away from Novo and go down here. So I don't know. It's a pretty garbage circle overall. That's what I'm trying to say with it. So two very, very, very tough circles back to back. Liquid, try and find a way to rotate in. Everyone else doing the exact same thing up towards the north. Navi, they're on the ferry, as I said before, and and Multi-Circle Gaming, they realize this. They see them on the ferry and they go, great. I think they spot them up here. They sit around, they look at the ferry, they go, great, because Tianba was shooting, and I think Navi shoots back at Tianba, and they go, great, there's people on the ferry, let's fuck them up. And then they go, okay, either we sit here and we start shooting, or we just go sprinty into where the ferry actually docks, and then we'll sit in there and wait for them, because then, I mean, obviously they cannot jump off the ferry, right? We'll just go in and wait for them. So they run, like they shoot and they run and they shoot and they run to try and make their way down. But Ling Du gets knocked by Bestelok, I believe, on the ferry. He knocks him and they then get the jump on them. So they get to jump off the ferry. They get to run in, run in on shore. And it's just so terrible. New circle, pups. We do keep some of Novo in, but still it's a pretty difficult circle to play, mainly because this hillside is absolute garbage. Infantry, they have made a good effort of keeping control of the south side of the circle. At this point, they have like 10 or 11 kills, if not even more. Again, sit on the edge, hold teams out. They just play gatekeep every single chance they get infantry, and then in the late game they start pushing forward and going more aggressive. Yeah, exactly. It was a race. They were sprinting towards the ferry to be there before Navi got there, but then because of the knock, they couldn't get there in time. Tiamba, they try and sit tight in the middle. Oath, they're 4 players hiding in a shack. Make that 3. Oath, they've been doing a lot of hiding in shacks this weekend. Infantry, they wipe out Liquid. Great push on their part. Infantry, I mean, this game in particular, they just look terrifying. They played without a care in their life. Like, Infantry this game played similar to how Liquid played, and Ents actually too, played in the final game of the tournament, where it was just no fear and full speed forward, killing everyone. It's when you have a team like that, it's pretty terrifying, especially when they start hitting their shots. It's pretty dangerous. You never know what to expect. You go, okay, so they shouldn't be pushing us now because that wouldn't be the better play, but they just go, we're gonna push you because, well, we want to push you, and then that can really screw you over. Multi-circle gaming, I like this push from them, trying to wrap up the hill. No reason for them to try and push in behind both Zenith and Navi. So smart wrap up the hill from MCG. They get down 1 kill, then they try and push over towards infantry. They're trying to hold them off, and this is a smart situation, a smart decision making by Tianba. So Tianba is sitting in a little plateau inside the circle, waiting for something to happen. And then while this doesn't happen fast enough, like not enough of a fight escalates, they go, great, let's stick around for a little while. And then once multi-circle gaming comes over the top, they go, great, we have a chance to third party here. And instead of just running straight into the fight, and instead of running over to the team that's already wounded, and by doing so, leaving themselves exposed to the guys sitting in the barn below, they try and wrap up behind infantry and kind of squish them in between the two teams. Pretty smart play by Chiamba. And they get themselves the wipe. So infantry, they die in 8th place, but they still get 15 kills. So it's a pretty good game. Last game plays a bit different. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, Ents and Liquid, they didn't really care at all, it seemed, in the last game. They just went out full speed forward and got a ton of kills because they were so far down the leaderboard that if they wanted to actually make it into the top 4, we can take a look at it when we get there, but I think if they wanted to actually make it into the top 4 coming into the final game, I think Liquid needed a 23 kill win. And I think Ents probably needed 30 kills on a win in order to actually make it into the top 4. So they knew it was going to be a tough task, and they said, you know what, I mean, we might as well try. And they did a pretty good job. I mean, Ents getting 16 kills in a game, that's not something you see too often with their play style. So they just went full speed forward, went chasing kills. And they got a lot. I mean, that would have been a really good game. 16 kill, 3rd place for Ents. That would have been a very good game had it not been because their other games had been so bad. But at least I didn't get last place then, so that's something. They trade, push in, slow, not a whole lot they can do. Meta, I like, again, I like how Meta played this one. They're maintaining a 2-way split right now. They know there's going to be no push coming in from here because Tianpa is still up the hill. In the meantime, DA, they know that Oath are in the shack down here. New circle pups. And then what do you do here? You know that you have a team up above you, which means that if you take the fight now to Oath, there's a good chance that Tianba will try and push down towards you. If you fight here, they get a chance to third party, they can wipe you, and then they can push into the circle, right? So what DA wants is that Tianba is somehow forced to run in this direction or in that direction. Tianba just got shifted away from, and they now know we gotta take a fight to somebody. We have to do something. We cannot just, I mean, they could just stay up there and die to the blue, but that doesn't make any sense. So either we wrap down and take the fight to day trade, or we wrap down and take the fight down here. What does DA do in response? First of all, they shoot a whole hell of a lot of bullets up in this direction, but then they also start throwing smokes up here to isolate Tianba's vision. So even if this fight does pop off, Tianba doesn't really have an angle of approach because they can't see what's going on. And by doing so, they force Tianba down in this direction. Just one of the small things, but really, really smart decision making on their part to throw smokes here and saying, you know what, Tiamba, you can come down here if you want to, but you can't see shit. So you might as well run the other way. And by doing so, even though they're now fighting, you can see right here, they push in, they take the full-on brawl of a fight. Tiamba would have been well off pushing down in this direction, but because they can't see anything, they're forced down in that direction. Just smart play from DA to isolate like that. Tiamba tries to push down, they end up going down. Poochus and Flash stays alive. Punich and Kickstart, again, just casually staying alive through all of it. Shouldn't really have happened, but does somehow do anyway. Keep in mind that the Zenith, they were the ones to swim across here. They managed to stay alive. Now, Meta has the circle, but their position really isn't very good because this road, has gutters on both sides, I guess you can say. I can't draw properly. So this road here has like, it goes down on both sides a little bit, which means that Meta can't really get a good angle. Like they have to push up and expose themselves to both Zenith, Day Trade in order to peek over. So they are right now saying, let's focus on Punich and let's focus on Punich. Let's focus on Zenith and let's focus on DA. That's their priority right now. The other side of the road will take when it comes to that. Right now we got to focus on these guys. Silson is trying to hold off on his own out here. He's wrapping in with the blue. They get the kills onto Zenith. Great play. Hold off, get the double, isolate, get them killed. In the meantime, they look back over the top, over towards DA. Now the final circle pops, and we are forcing them to go towards the road. They get the kills. One does go down. I believe it's Sparking, right? Yeah, so Sparking gets knocked, and now they can't get the rest. Circle's closing in too fast. It's a 3v2. The issue is now, they can't really see, because it's a downhill on this side, and it's more flat on this side, they can't really see that well over the road. It's a pretty hard peak. That alongside with, of course, there's smokes all over the place. We can't see the smokes, but there's smokes pretty much everywhere on the map. They try and get angles. They try and make their way forward, but as you can see, Day Trade, they're doing a great job at holding them off. They're just playing isolation. They play with no one in the middle. They just say, you're going to play contain there. I'm going to play contain here. Let's just wrap around, get control. And this right here is the one thing that Meta could not have happened. You cannot allow for Day Trade to have a player push across. That to me was their, like, that's when I knew they might actually go out and lose this one. Once Poochus was allowed to push across, that's when they lost all control. He gets across, he finds the first one onto Wicked with a nade, I believe. Flash comes over, gets Ragnar, now it's a 1v1. Silson did play it smart, he pushed out to the road, tried to take control, but then loses the 1v1 in the end of it. Just a tricky situation where I think had they committed more to try and prevent them from crossing the street, or maybe tried to cross the street themselves when the smokes were there, they could have, well, they would have had a better chance of winning it. But great game overall, second to final game of day number 1. And now let's hop over to the final game of the day. All right, game number 5 of day number 1. And again, any questions, you guys are pretty quiet, but any questions you may have, do feel free to, or comments for that sake, do feel free to say or ask. Playing as straightforward as could be expected, really. It's not a whole lot to say about it. And now Liquid, well, they've played 2 games near Snaya. This time around they go, you know what? We did see that. We did see DA having quite a lot of space down there. Let's go down and take something away from them, shall we? And they do just that. They go down and they steal away school and apps, and they get themselves looted up. Of course, they do leave them the J compound, so DA not going to be too upset about that one. Circle, pretty straightforward. It's a 50-50 split, as close to a 50-50 split as you could expect anyway. And yeah, not really too much to it in the beginning. We do see down towards the south, just because it's DA, they know there's a team crossing at some point. They go down, they set up, they get the kill on one. Flash gets to stay alive and cross on over. Infantry are just bullies at this point. Infantry are just bullies. If they see an opportunity to sucker punch you, they will do it. They will do it. Doesn't matter if you have a back turn. They will backstab you. They'll sucker punch you. They'll do all the rude things, you know. Whenever you had fights in school when you were a kid, you weren't allowed to pull someone's hair. You weren't allowed to do all these different things, and they do all of it. They're just bullies. In a cool way. Not that I advocate pulling people's hair, of course, but when it's in PUBG and it's the way that they do it, I think it's kind of cool. Now, one thing that I was a little surprised to see, and I guess that's where the bully gets bested, right? Look at Longskir's rotation. The circle's going up towards the north, and I am just not sure what he was going for. I'm not sure what he was trying to do with this. These guys are still looting. They're still getting looted up. Longskir just full speed sent it straight towards this compound and it gets killed. What did he want here that he couldn't have had anywhere else? Did he want a different angle of approach towards the circle? Why not just stay with the guys down towards the south? Did he want to try and wrap around? Maybe he thought all of day trade was going to be down here, so if he could wrap around and get looted up, he could wrap in front of them and take them out. I'm not sure. I was just very confused when I saw him starting just full speed sending it on the bike. I was like, why do you even bother? I know you got a kill on them early and whatnot, but it was just, it seemed unnecessary in a weird way. No, that's not really how infantry plays. That's why I was confused by it. Not really. I was just surprised to see it. It was one of those things where, even though, I mean, I know infantry, when they feel it, they go out and they do some crazy things sometimes. But that one was just, it wasn't crazy. It was just kind of strange. Like, why would you even bother going all the way there? Hey, Thoris, thank you so much. And yeah, no, Agoroth, I don't think so. I don't know. The cool professor we always wanted in school. The professor that teaches you about rotating in PUBG. Oh, I wish I had PUBG rotations class in high school. That would have made my school time so much more enjoyable. If you got which team he belongs to, that's a good option. Maybe that's what it was. You thought he was playing solos for a second. No, I don't know. I would love to be friends with him and ask him in person, like, what was the thought behind that play? But I actually don't know. I do not know. Now let's see. Circle still 50-50. Water straight through the middle. The pregnant snake, as we like to call it, or at least as I do. The snake, but it's pregnant. Maybe either it's pregnant or it just ate like a, I don't know, horse. Something. The Duckmans. Yeah, please don't. Genji, they realize infantry are doing crazy things, and Boldian goes, oh, let me shoot at something, but now the bullies are getting bullied. So he's driving forward. Genji, they just all turn around. Boldian is driving around shooting at them, having a fun time, and then it's like, oh, no. All the other guys turn around, and all of a sudden, all the sheep kill the wolf, you know? When they just gang up and work together, they can best the wolf, they can best the bully, and they succeed. So down goes Boldian, and infantry all of a sudden down to just 2 players. Unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. When you bully people too much, they will only have it for so long, and now the revenge is coming in. Exactly, Gandalf. Hello there, I'm your friend. And then, no, okay, never mind. I was also the one that killed your teammate earlier. I guess he just tried to fill that role. Maybe he felt bad, I don't know. Let's see the next circle. Where are we going? Towards the northwest. And this circle is not that bad in terms of what's playable and where you can go. It's just still kind of a frustrating thing that the water is in the middle. Because had we shifted a little further north or a little further south, you would be pretty sure that this circle is guaranteedly going to either go over on this side or down on this side. And in this case, that just, it's not really confirmed yet. So teams still have to play according to the, okay, it could still go over on the other side kind of factor. Tianba, in a 2-way split, I like how they positioned themselves in this game actually as a whole. They were splitting on the south side. Now they say, you know what, I mean, even though we have a decent compound in the south, let's go over towards the north instead. And they opt to sit in a 2-way split here instead. I like the play. Wrap from south up to the north. They can kind of scout it from here. They can see at least the south side wall, and they can also see some of the fences on the south side. So if the fence is not broken, Usually that means that no car has driven through it and taken over that position, and they should be fine to go up in that spot themselves. T1 go up on the hillside to try and scout their way further forward. They take the compound down below as well. And as they start driving down, Oath hears this and they say, you know what, now let's us go up the hill and scout our way forward. Get some high ground, get some vision, see what's going on, try and see what you can see with the circle to come. And then we see this circle pop. And this is where you have to get your ruler out, right? Because if you take phase 4, which is the circle coming in after this one, where can we go that doesn't include water? My answer to you is nowhere. So where can we go that includes the least amount of water? Here? 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 Fact of the matter is that this is a pretty tough call, because the thing is, and we've talked about this a billion times before, but the thing is, the game only generates 30 circles. So there will be 30 of these ones. 30 red bubbles everywhere inside this. And then it will take the one circle that fits the best, right? So even though this is the circle kind of up here-ish, where the game also did end up going, even though this is the circle that includes the least water, there's no guarantee that the game generated that circle. It could have this one. You see, I mean, it can, every single time I move this could be a new circle. And if it generates only 30, there's so much space available that the odds that we're going to see this exact circle, it's just so small. So it could have said that the circle that we've created that has the least water is this one, or this one, or this one, or that one. I don't know. Just either one. So at this point, even though theoretically there should be one area that has the least water possible, it's still incredibly hard to tell, because it's kind of 50-50 in the split, right? So that's why you see some teams still up to stay down in the south. You see Meta, they go, you know what? If the game is going to end on the river, we might as well just jump in. And they set themselves up underneath the bridge towards the south side, and they go, we'll just wait in the water. I mean, if we cannot make a decision, let's just wait it out. While all this happens, and they're one of the few teams that say we will just play down by the water and then push in late. DA, they opt full speed, send it down towards Ends. Fight escalates there. All of Ends get eliminated. Code Markov gets an insane 1v3 to win that one. And then the circle does go up towards the north. Circle does go up towards the north side. And now Tianba, able to maintain this two-way split. I was surprised, actually. I was surprised to see Tianba be able to maintain, like, once we saw this shift come in, I was surprised to see Tianba be able to maintain that two-way split. I thought with all the teams coming in from here, a team would crash either there or there. But neither of them got crashed. And they never really seemed like they were about to rotate either. They just stayed in their splits. They stayed the way they did. They ran out to try and shoot at Meta when they came rotating down this way. But I know it has Spiral. I know it has less water. But there's no knowing that the game generated that circle that it needed. You know what I mean? So since it only generated 30 circles and so many of those circles had water in, there's no guarantee of knowing that that circle was generated. You could hope for it, but there's no way of knowing. So now they see the new circle pop and they go, great, let's just full speed send it. Let's just get back to cover. Let's get up towards the north side and play it safe. And Oath had a really, really great heads up play in response to that. So watch this. Oath, still from before. I mean, when T1 left and went down here, Oath, came from here. They went up here. They took over the high ground position. And watch how quick they react. Watch how quick they react to this one. Circle goes towards the north. They leave. And instantly, Oath send it across. Relo goes. Snakers goes. And then Pat Caps from Narnia gets knocked on the hilltop. And that is so incredibly unfortunate. Because the read was perfect. They spot the rotation. They see what's available. They see that they have a chance to make their way across. And then the guy who's the furthest behind ends up getting knocked. And Oath, of course, being a very one team, one unit type team. They go, Balefrost, this is so annoying, but can you please go pick him up? And Balefrost goes, of course, I'll go do that. So he's gonna try and see if he can go back up and get the rest. And while that happens, because both Snakers and Relo do manage to make their way across, while that happens, the pathway or the entrance to this rotation gets cut off. Starlord came out towards the wizard to set them off. Danche, or to cut them off, I mean. Danche comes out here as well, and even if he does get the rest, which he does end up doing, they get back in the vehicle. All of a sudden, the crossing to the other side ain't there. T1 has had time now to set themselves up for any last remaining teams that come across this way, and they end up going down because of it. So, really unfortunate, incredibly unfortunate timing for Pat Gaps to get knocked up there. Loses Oath 2 players on what was actually a very, very heads up and quick response rotation from that team. They could have had all 4 over here, but because they lose Fat Gaps, or because they got knocked, I believe from one of the T1 players, because he got knocked there, they couldn't make it. Had Balefrost given up on him and just rotated, they would have been 3 over here. Now they're 2 instead. If they wanted the rest, should they have gone back and pushed over the river as a team? No, they shouldn't have gone for the rest. I mean, it's always so easy to say in hindsight, right? But because had they been 3, there's also a chance that T1 would have killed one of them earlier, because there was one more target to shoot at. So that's another way of putting it. It's just really unfortunate timing. Really unfortunate. Same thing here. Tickleton is the one kind of tasked with holding the backside safe. He's trying to push down. He gets spotted by Snakers, while the rest of the team does manage to make their way down. New circle pups. We can go back to the water all we please. And Tianba now. Again, similar to before, they made their way back from the previous rotation. Linshun and Mings made their way back up towards the north. They get up here, and instead of just staying inside the compound, like would have seen, probably, from a lot of other teams, they go, what is the one place that this compound can be vulnerable from? What is the one area that people can punish us inside this? This right here is the Achilles heel of this compound. We do not want any opponents up on this hill, because they will just be able to shoot us upstairs through the windows. They'll destroy our vehicles. They'll shoot us in the back while we do other stuff. Every time we run from building to building, we'll be shot at. We don't want anyone up here. And what better way to prevent that than sending players up there yourself? So they sit in the two-way split for a while. They wait for things to happen. When they then realize that nothing is going on up here, they run 2 players up the hill. Send 2 players up the hillside. They've heard the shots coming from infantry down below. They still know that this ends in DA fight that came to an end. DA never really lost their final player. So they just sit tight on the hills. They wait for it. They sit tight up here. They wait around for as long as they possibly can. And they just play it safe on the hillside. They don't need to aggress on anything. They don't need to push anything. They just need to make sure that they have control of this. Because if you don't have control of this compound is going to be in trouble. Especially when you have to leave it at some point. If you had to leave. If the circle goes over here. Having this on, like, if there's a team sitting here, when that circle goes over here, you can bet your ass that you're probably not going to survive that push out from the compound. So, just very heads-up play. Thinking circles ahead. Thinking, be proactive. And Chiamba takes that position. Very smart play by them. Meta, try to push up. Smart play in this situation by Meta as well. I did call it during the game. But Meta, they play on the south side. They give, like, they let Daytrade know that they're down here. Daytrade forced to make the move across. They get the knock and flush onto 1. And once they realize that Daytrade is left to go over here rather than up on the hillside, they go, great, now we can play this. So all of a sudden, Meta has a whole ridge line now that they can go up and play on. Because they know that by waiting it out, by saying we don't want to shoot at Daytrade, we want to force the fight early, the worst thing that could happen here is that they force the fight, they allow for Flash to come back down and engage, and Daytrade gets to push in here and hold them out. They don't want to have that happen. They want Daytrade to wrap up here. So they wait for Norins to start leaving, and then they shoot at the last player, take him down. Norins gets away, but now they have a place they can go up on the hillside. They get good vision. They can sit up on the hills for at least a little while longer. So they make their way out. They go up on the hill. They take control. Again, very heads-up play by Meta in that situation. They now can play the hillside. They wait for the next circle to pop. New circle goes towards the center. And that's, of course, unfortunate for Meta because now you have to make a move. And where do you go from here? So Wicked has been looking underneath. He knows there's a player inside the shack. He has heard the commotion down towards the riverside on the south. They know there are day trade players over here. Ragnar peeks over, instantly, of course, knows that they're there. Sparking can see over. They know that there are infantry players down here. So no matter where they go, the north side rotation is cut off. It's cut off. The straight in rotation is cut off. And the south side rotation is cut off. So now you have to decide. We are this late in the game. There's only 18 players alive. You're reaching a point now where no matter what you do, you will have to take a fight at some point. And in theory, right now, Meta gets to pick. Which fight do you want to take? Do you want to go straight through the middle, run down, take the fight to infantry? Do you want to go up towards the north, try and take a fight to them with a chance of maybe getting third-partied by infantry? Or do you want to try and make the play on the south side and take the fight to the shack and maybe be shut up by the guys out here? You just have to commit to one fight. That's what all it is. So they send 2 up. They go, great. If maybe we can make a play on day trade, there's something we can do. Meta comes back up. Now, they lose 1 player. That's time they can't spend trying to get info because now they have to sit and rest. So Wicked goes, great. While you're resting, I'll see what's available on the south side. And then they go, great, we have to make a play now. Okay, infantry is in here. They're a pretty good shooting team. They know now that we're up here. We can't make that play. We have to make our way towards the east instead. Wicked runs down, tries to play up close. They get the kill on him. Now they have this available. And while this is all going on, Sonics make the cross on over. They make the run over towards the other side. They have the vehicles over here they can play around. And this was where I was a little surprised by how Meta opted to play, because they run back here, then they get 2 players knocked, and then try to wrap back the other way. I would have thought that instead of, because they played kind of slow, they waited up here. I thought they were just going to push it straight forward and take the fight to Sonics. And looking at the map here, actually looks more like they did than what I thought. I just think they were too slow, and what slowed them down was the fact that they had a player knocked up here earlier. Because had they caught Sonics on the south side, they could maybe have taken a fight to them down here. But I guess in hindsight, I mean, now that we see it, now that I see it again, when I was casting the game, I thought they actually had a better chance to make that play. But I can see with the time, because the knock that came in after sparking up here, they just didn't have the time to make the play. So that's just unfortunate. In the meantime, what's happened up towards the north is that, again, Tianba continuing to make smart decisions. They now realize, with the circle shifting in, there's a very little chance that anyone is going to be able to, well, first of all, play with vehicles and full speed push it into us. So they now play 3-1. Again, similar to what we talked about with day trade in the third game today, where you have to when you're 4 alive, you have the number of players to prioritize the most important places to be. Right now, the building isn't all that important. If they can clear this entire ridgeline, they essentially claim control of half the circle, with the compound under control as well. Even if they then lose the compound, even if a team crashes in here and they then have to back up towards the hill, they are in that position that makes that compound vulnerable. They are in the position they had to clear out themselves, which is a good spot to be in. So Tianba prioritizes the hill over the compound at this point. It's something many other teams probably wouldn't have done. I think that's a very smart play. Because even if they then lose the compound, they can take full control. Now they just completely back out of it for a while. They swap out. They say, Linshun, you know what? You go back and hold now. I'll go up on the hill and help instead. Maybe he needed some loot. I don't know. So he runs up. Other teammate comes down. Linshun's just chilling in the compound while the rest of the guys up here are doing the damage. And now we come back to where we were before. Meta eliminated. Back down to the compound we go. New circle pops. Either you can wrap down the hill. You can try and wrap around the side. Infantry. Still very scary team. They've been playing down in the kind of the bowl down here for a while. They're waiting up, and Sonics are just waiting. Sonics are waiting for Tianba to either be forced to push down this way, or maybe see them push down like this. And Tianba knows that there's a team down here. Let's draw another card. Tianba knows that there's a team down here. So if they make this run in the open, they could potentially be in trouble. What do they do instead? They say, if we can just wrap over the side, we already have control of this, right? If we can just wrap down here and deal with this team fast enough, we can reset in time, take care of these guys. It doesn't quite go the way they wanted to. 9 gets 2 knocks really quickly. Fortunately, M200 is there to help. They then get, with Lorena's help, the final kill. I mean, obviously, they thought this was going to be much more smooth than it ended up being. But then they get the final kills, and because Sonics didn't opt to move earlier, they're still in the very, very, very southeast side of the circle. The distance they have to run to get over here, because when all these 3 players up here, that's when they could have tried making the run. But as you can see, they wait, they hold their horses to say, we're not going to try and make a move here, because they will be in the open. We're not going to try and make a move from down here before we know for a fact that this fight up on the north side has popped off. So we're going to wait. Now we see the knocks. Now we start running. But the distance from down here to up here is just so long that by the time they actually make it up here, the rest has come in, the heals have come up, and now it's reset to a 4v4. Had they started sprinting just 5-6 seconds earlier, they would have been in this position they're in now when Xiaoyang was still alive. And then maybe they could have caught someone off guard. Had they been like up here when Xiaoyang was down there, maybe they could have caught someone shooting at Xiaoyang and they could have gotten the first knock, making it a 3v2. Because it is an uphill battle for them. Tianpa has the hilltop, and this is like downhill in this direction. So Tianpa gets the wipe. Now it's a 3v3. Tianpa has the high ground. Sonics don't have to push uphill. They don't really need to make the run forward. But Lorena makes an incredibly smart play. Lorena takes a US, drives towards the tree down here somewhere, drives down towards the tree, and while he's doing that, and I think H-Win, I'm not sure if he shoots toward, or if he's looking towards Lorena, but I mean, if it works the way that I remember it doing during the game, he completely baits them. So he drives off to the side. H-Win, I believe, looks after him, and M200 Minx gets the knock on towards him. So just very heads up play. They now know there's a guy on this side. And the most important thing right now for Lorena is don't get knocked. If you get knocked out here, you're completely isolated. They can just focus this. So he goes up, like goes for a peek, then backs off again. Sits tight for, I don't know, 3-4 seconds. Doesn't peek anything. Because as long as he's a factor, as long as he's alive, Sonics know we have to worry about this guy. We can't over peek here. That way, Lorena essentially cuts off this entire angle. So he forces them to play backwards. And in the meantime, while he's doing that, it allows for M200 and Minx to push over the top, and they killed him. This was just such a good push by Tianpa. If you go back and watch the actual game, really, really smart push by Tianpa in that situation. But that was the final game of day number 1. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in to a little bit of a different analysis today. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, I will see you